Good afternoon, Todd. I am Shoshanna Gross. I am here with Todd Bowen from the Ohio Restaurant Association. We are both from the Ohio Restaurant Association. We are here today talking about mask mandates, the latest and greatest of the new orders coming out of various municipalities, and then most recently out of the State House as well. So Todd Bowen is our specialist on all things government affairs, and so he is going to talk to us a little bit about what we know about what's happening with masks, specifically as it relates to restaurant employees, owners, operators, and then customers as well. So,
awesome.
Well, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, thanks, Shoshanna. Glad to be here on the Daily Dose again today, and appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about face covering mandates, to talk a little bit about, obviously we've seen over the last week plus that the coronavirus numbers have certainly been increasing in the state of Ohio. I think thankfully for us, they are not spiking in the same way that they are in some of the other states. But the goal is to keep that from happening. And we've been really very engaged in conversations with the governor, the lieutenant governor, with county health departments. We've done that all along, but certainly within the last week, those have increased, again, exponentially, similar to where they were at the beginning of this whole process. So appreciate the opportunity to be on talking about those today.
Yeah, so we know that this kind of all started last week a little bit with the Public Health Advisory County System, which was a new system that the governor put in place to kind of identify where we were county by county in Ohio, since there are such differences in how people are actually experiencing this virus based on where they live. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the governor really rolled this out in his press conference last week, and it's something they've been talking about. Is that as they have generated more data and had more learning about the coronavirus, it has certainly been very clear that there are more cases and more issues in some parts of the state than there are in other parts of the state. And not 100%, but largely it's the large urban centers that are having greater issues, greater numbers, greater percentages than the other parts of the state. And now that they've got enough data, they feel like they're able, through this Ohio Public Health Advisory System, to put together a color-coded risk assessment system so that public health departments, the public, and business owners and operators have more tools to help make decisions, you know, at a more local level. And we certainly know that in the first map that they rolled out, I believe that it was 53 of the counties were at the yellow or lower level. 28 of them were at the orange or the elevated level, but then there were 7 counties that were at the red level, which means that there is the most significant community spread going on. Cases are elevated, hospitalizations are elevated in those counties, and certainly those are, while we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can across the state, but those need special attention. And so we really appreciated him rolling that out. And appreciate the fact that we're now at a place where we can do this here in Ohio.
Yeah, and so what kind of special attention are we talking about for those 7 counties?
So there will be other things that will come, but in today's press conference, the governor specifically mandated, and there will be an actual health director's order coming out yet this evening that will take effect tomorrow. But it is going to order in those 7 counties that are at the red level that face coverings be worn by the public. You know, we know that for employees, they have been required all along, but for the public, when you are going into a place of business, when you are going into any place really that you will be inside or even outside, if you are not able to maintain that social distance other than with a family member, that you should be wearing a face covering. So always have your face covering with you. I'm sitting at my desk in the office, and when you're sitting at your desk, you don't have to wear one, but every time I would step out of my office, I would put mine on. So for restaurants specifically, this means that when patrons are entering and exiting the restaurant, and when they are in the common areas, they should be wearing face coverings. And that really is the restaurant's responsibility to make sure that they're telling patrons about this. I would say it would even be a best practice if you're able to have some on hand, so that if your patron happened to forget it, that you would provide that for them. We know that most people are carrying them with them these days, so that there shouldn't be huge numbers. And then the other thing, Shoshanna, is even before the governor mandated this today, many municipalities, especially in the larger urban cities, were already putting forward some of these mandates. And certainly the ORA is very supportive of the governor's action, but was really very supportive of the municipalities taking this action even before that. And they're all worded a little bit differently, but they all are pretty clear that from a restaurant perspective, when the patrons are coming in, leaving, or being in the common areas, that they should have their face covering. But then once you're seated, and they word it differently. Some of them said while actively eating or drinking. Some of them said once seated with your group at your table. But really, the intent was the same, that once you're seated at your table with your group, you remove your face covering so that you can enjoy your meal. But then anytime you would stand up to travel to the restroom or anywhere in the common areas, or when it's time to leave, that you put that back on. And this is really for multiple reasons. One is certainly that we can hopefully begin to tamp down the increasing numbers here in Ohio, because we certainly know that if we don't get the numbers under control, that Ohio could become one of those next red states with really big spikes. And we also know that for consumer confidence and for the respect of your staff, this is really a good practice, that as they are wearing face coverings, as they ought to and have been required to, that the guests should do that as well. So it's great respect. And I think this will be easier for your staff to explain that now that it is a mandate. It's always been a little bit hard to say, hey, we'd really like you to do this, but now we would say, this is the rule in this county. Please do this. And I think it's a logical expectation. And certainly, as I've said before, the ORA is supportive of that. And we will be messaging that. And I am making a point of reading not just the articles about these local municipal ordinances, but the ordinances themselves. So certainly anybody that's watching this, if you've got questions, I will always do my best to answer them. They're fairly consistent, but if there are nuances, I'm always glad to try to answer those questions.
Great. Well, it's really good to know that we can reach out to you, Todd, as a resource. I think that's true generally, especially when it comes to government affairs issues. There's been a lot of legislation kind of going through the state and federal levels around COVID pandemic related things, but also just laws that have come up because of different rules around social distancing and things with liquor licenses changing and all of that. So great to have you as a resource. Really helpful to know now that not only are the individual cities and municipalities starting to mandate wearing face coverings, that actually the governor is going to be paying attention to how counties are doing. And once you do hit that red level, you can know that likely you will be mandated within that county to also be wearing a face covering when you're in public. And I think, this just goes along with keeping people safe. That's been our goal at the Ohio Restaurant Association, and we know it's been the goal of our members, keeping themselves safe, keeping their employees safe, and keeping the customers safe. So this is just another step in making sure that we're able to do that, while people are out and enjoying themselves as much as possible. 100%.
And I wore my orange shirt today so that we can, hopefully this will be on the path toward making those 7 counties, take them from red to orange. And we can do that successfully. That would be, a huge goal, would help restaurants immensely and would help our public health immensely.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Todd. Always great to have you on the Daily Dose, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Shoshanna.